Game like this shows how satisfied we have become with mediocre and just decent games without expecting something greater. I can understand the younger generations, as they don't have references to what gaming once was, but we have no excuses. No matter what you play or like, Chained Echoes goes into Game of the Year contender. For me, it is Game of the Year, you worthy bastards. I'm glad Chipskates at Deck 13 didn't give me review key, because I could pay for this game myself to support the developer. And this comes from a stingy bastard without much money. Chained Echoes is JRPG similar to the likes of Chrono Trigger. Tough one to compare with, eh? Well, not for Chained Echoes. I think this game is easily one of the best JRPGs ever made, at least from the ones I've played. Story revolves around a set of characters, whose destinies align eventually for a common goal. Everyone has meaningful backstory more or less that eventually unravels as story progresses. Story goes above and beyond with twists and turns all the time. Won't spoil anything, don't worry. It is clear that writing team or person know how and what to write because story is phenomenal. Agendas of nations, rulers and party members have proper meaning, explanation and deep reasoning roots. Killian's story arc is so impressive that his story is something I'm thinking of days after finishing the game. As story grows over time to deal with bigger problems, character personal story arcs never become forgotten because game doesn't hold back the reasoning behind it all, and I love it. It doesn't self-indulge into one reason above others, but gives players explanations on many different ones through every character, with each being as valid as the next. Main villains are not that simple to pinpoint, as constantly new agendas arise that were buried deep to the degree you won't believe. Allegiances amongst neutrals and enemies shift to satisfy their own ultimate goal, and nothing can stand in between when it happens. History of this world has enough lore, but doesn't go overboard. It could have gone deeper, if I'm honest, with so many different races and potential stories there, but I never felt like it was lacking. Most characters that have something to say in the world are connected to story or side quest progression. Side quests are not generic due to being tied to main story and characters, so they never feel like out of the way chores. Pacing is also very well done. Game opens up for full exploration after every major story checkpoint when new side activities become available. Every time I had enough of exploring and doing side activities, story would retain enough interest in the back of my mind to push me towards story progression again. Then I would get the feeling of wanting to explore to do side stuff again, and the game pretty much lets you back at it, like it knows when switch should happen to not overindulge with one or the other. Fantastic pacing. I haven't completed everything yet, even with over 70 hours invested, so there is plenty game to be played even if rushing through story is the goal. $20 price tag is insulting to Chained Echoes when compared to insane amount of mediocre games that come with $60 or $70 price tag with horrid repetitive content. Chained Echoes should cost $140 in that case, how much well thought out quality content there is. Art style is fantastic. I don't like pixelated graphics, but this game does it in such quality way that it doesn't bother me. Reason are details, of which there are plenty. Every race, village, city, underground, enemy have enough distinguishing details. Game is also very colorful and pretty to look at. Enemies from bosses to normal ones vary from cute to badass. Not to mention sky armors that are amazingly done. Game eventually lets you use sky armors, which eases exploration and enables facing toughest monsters. Great change of usual dynamic by adding something very much usable that looks epic, lets us fly and can destroy most enemies easily except the toughest ones. What I love are believable animations in combat, even though game is using low quality pixelated graphical style. I have always said that animations are one of most important factors to get immersed into characters and combat. Chained Echoes could have easily ditched these quality animations due to graphical style choice, but instead went above and beyond to make everyone feel unique, and it adds a lot. For example, Tactics Ogre Reborn, no matter how good the game is, pissed me off with cheap animations. Combat is really good as well. It utilizes overdrive mechanic that serves something like a rhythm indicator. Green zone is the goal as it reduces damage taken and mana costs. If gauge ends up in red, damage taken increases and so do the mana costs. There are many ways to manipulate the gauge. By switching party members using defend or specific skills that by matching the gauge indicator lower the bar significantly. Also every time enemy attacks, gauge goes towards red. Cool system that adds layers to difficulty where one wrong risky move can put you into red, and if it doesn't pay off it could lead to party wipe. Overdrive mechanic also forces player to utilize as many party members as possible in each fight to battle the gauge while also retaining DPS numbers and heals. Each character plays in unique way, which leads to interesting combinations and setups. There is a lot of alley-oop combinations, for the lack of a better word, where whole team works to survive while setting up a big attack for highest damage dealer. Or play for damage over time while out-healing and out-surviving damage with tanks and healers. Same thing with couple differences for Sky Armor battles. Combat never got dull for me on high difficulty because it pushed me to the brink every fight or so. Great thing is that there aren't too many fights like in typical JRPGs that put them every 2 steps. I like this approach of sporadic tough fights much more as it helps with game spacing, which is phenomenal. Enemy respawn is easily done by teleporting to any fast travel crystal. Major and minor bosses all come with unique concepts, different tactics and great art style. They are gonna push you to the brink more times than not, but almost always in an interesting way. Even normal enemies have interesting mechanics, so that fights never play out as the previous ones. Major gripe I have is difficulty balancing. At times game pisses me off with act twice bollocks where player stands with thumb up their arse while enemy acts 4 times in a row. There is nothing more infuriating in games when enemy is relentlessly attacking and you can't do anything for a long time. Lots of times at the start of battles on high difficulty party member gets killed without a chance to act even, and then we have to play catch up from the get-go. Makes me mad just thinking about it. Thankfully, most battles are fun type of challenging where a couple party members end up dead at the end due to serious struggle even in victory. Chained Echoes replenishes combatants after every fight so we can get into next tough one with full force. This is in my opinion a much better system than using items in between while having to fight many easy battles, as such approach quickly becomes a chore. Character progression is tied to unlocked active skills, passive skills and attribute increases. There is no classic leveling system, but instead game gives upgrade points after major story milestone, which is usually boss fight and also through side activities. This kind of system forces players to get good essentially by understanding characters through their usefulness in combat. No cheap overleveling like in many other games. Sure, you can always lower difficulty if things get too tough, but considering the disbalance of some fights it is not a bad option to have. Crafting is very important as stat increases can be felt drastically. I like when game doesn't require insane amount of materials to get something decent, but instead make player work a little bit to get couple materials that are then used to upgrade weapons and armor. Then for next tier different materials are needed and so on, but it never feels like big and pointless RNG grind due to only few materials needed to upgrade current stuff. Big system game users are crystals that are slotted into gear, which can significantly boost the character. However, they come in different sizes and can be combined to reach maximum rank, which grants maximum benefits. Then by removing them from equipment, size increases to maximum, so it gets more difficult to overboost characters. Whole system is fun to play around while being the grindiest part of the game. Thankfully later on crystals acquired can be manipulated, which makes the whole process easier. Chained Echoes also offers some great puzzles that require serious thinking and great exploration due to reward board system, which rewards players with significant stuff such as level ups and sacred waters that are used to unlock new classes. Loot is almost always meaningful in a way that higher tier weapons and armor are scattered in chests outside of beaten path, so you are rarely gonna feel like something wasn't worth doing. If not armor and weapons, then high grade materials can be found. Couple negative things to mention before finally finishing this review. Game has stuttering issues at times, but it is not gonna affect experience significantly. Major flaw is lack of tutorial or guide section where we can check previous introductions to new mechanics, as there are plenty of those. Hard to remember all the stuff on the fly. Not to mention lack of status and attribute explanations besides Adventurers Guild members that throw few bits of info here and there. Alright, enough rambling. Chained Echoes is one of the best JRPGs I have ever played that deserves 9 out of 10, with potential of 10 upon balancing the game better, adding tutorial section and starter fix. It is a game after which next RPGs would and should be judged more harshly, as it showcases brilliance almost every step of the way by having well thought out ideas to make the experience as friendly, challenging and interesting as possible. Game of the Year 2022.